Hi, welcome to Financial Algebra. It's our webinar. We're going to be talking about correlation and correlation coefficient. Our objectives today are to better understand whether a set of data has a positive or negative correlation, and if it has correlation, what's the correlation coefficient, and to also just predict and to guess and get a sense of that correlation coefficient. And then our success criteria will be drawing a line of best fit, determine the relationship between two data points, or data points, not two, and then determine the correlation coefficient of a scatter plot. Okay, so to begin with, let's answer our poll. And I'm only looking for one answer on this one, so it's going to have to be Adrian, so have fun with that one. But go ahead and answer the poll. What kind of correlation do you think there is between long-term smoking and lung cancer? And then we'll talk about what we mean by that in a little while. So if you don't know what that means, that's okay. And that's okay, Adrian. Are you in the lab? Are you at Central? So if you are, sometimes you can ask somebody else to help you out. And if you're at home, then it's okay. We can just do the chat thing. And then maybe later we can, at the end of it, we can try to see if we can get the audio to work as well. Mr. Trainer's probably pretty good at helping people get the audio to work. And we can pull him aside in a little while. All right, so what do you think about the correlation? So top right box, between smoking, long-term smoking, and lung cancer. No correlation, negative correlation, positive correlation. What do you think? Okay. So what I want you to do is you can take over your student pod or you could put it in the chat. I don't care. So if you take over student pod, I'll just show you what it can look like. I'm going to take over student pod number 2. And I'm going to put Mrs. Oh, totally didn't start typing. And then I can also switch my colors out. Oh, cool. So I want you to tell me why you think there's a negative correlation. And take over a pod if you want. Hi, William. Okay, so William, just bring you up to speed real quick. What we are talking about at the moment, and also if you want to, you can come in here. What we're talking about at the moment is the correlation between lung cancer. Oh, I'm going to wait because Donovan's coming in too. So hi, Donovan. What we were talking about is the correlation between long-term smoking and lung cancer. So if you want to just quickly answer the poll and then state why you picked your answer. I looked out there and I didn't see you, but it doesn't mean that you weren't there. So anyway.
I wasn't off.
Okay, so that makes me feel better that I did just totally overlook you. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and, like, also if you want to, you can use a computer, but right now it doesn't matter. We can just work right together. So I'm just going to ask you, William, and Hi, Donovan. Donovan, will you answer the poll in the top right corner? What kind of correlation do you think there is between long-term smoking and lung cancer? No correlation, negative correlation, or positive correlation?
Let's say positive.
Okay, so go ahead, select that one. And that's okay. So Donovan, we're waiting for you to pick one. Okay. And so then I asked Adrian to defend his answer, and so I'm going to go ahead and read his answer. Um, and he said, I think it's negative correlation because smoking causes lung cancer. Smoking more while having lung cancer is going to make things worse. Smoking more makes things worse. Okay, so I can see why you'd pick a negative correlation. There is a strong correlation between smoking and lung cancer. Um, and so why would you pick positive correlation instead?
How I saw it, it's positive, meaning it does cause, smoking does cause lung cancer. And they correlate together.
Okay.
And
So kind of,
it increases your chances at lung cancer the more you smoke.
okay, so on a probability scale.
Uh-huh.
So if we're looking at, let's see, years of smoking and then probability of getting lung cancer,
That's high.
that would create a positive trend.
Uh-huh.
And so yeah, so I'm going to just say that there is a correlation. So you're right, it depends on how we set up the question or how we set up the data. So if we put years of smoking on the x-axis, and I'll try to put this out real quick, and the probability of getting lung cancer, I could see how that would be a positive graph. I could also see how we can make a negative correlation, quality of life with smoking and lung cancer. That would decrease your, if you created a quality of life something or other. So that's good. We're going to, have any of you seen anything product on the market that hasn't stayed there very long?
What do you got? What do you
Food, shoes, clothes, something that came out and you noticed it and then it was never sold again. That's what I mean. Skyrockets,
Moon boots.
moon boots, they're actually out for a while in my day, but they probably came out again in your day and went away real quick.
Yeah.
I think I do kind of remember seeing that. That's funny. Because I remember having to wear moon boots when I was little and I hated them. But they still were around for a couple of years. Okay. Anything else you guys thought of? Because we're going to go into our a PowerPoint part and just talk about some of the things that I found on the internet. Which, when you're looking at starting businesses and doing business, you want to know what your market wants. And so sometimes that's why we have all this data collection in order to help us out. You guys are too young for this, unfortunately. But McDonald's had an Arch Deluxe sandwich. And it looks like they spent $1 million to market it, but nobody ever liked it. It kind of looks like a fish sandwich with beef. Anyway, so that was one of them. Oh, I'm totally clicking the wrong button. That's funny. I'm trying to click that button. That's a picture. Yeah, it looked like it had bacon. Okay, and then what about this one? Coors Rocky Mountain Spring Water. Why would that one flop?
Their beer company.
Yeah, a beer company making water. I wouldn't buy it. I'm a I don't drink alcohol, and having a beer company put out water scares me. Like, yeah, I agree with you, Donna. It just didn't fit right. So that was a bad move. Um, in 1985, Coca-Cola came out with what they called a new Coke. Um, it didn't pass because people were thinking it would have a new. I think it did. Did it have a new flavor?
It says it wanted to taste like Pepsi.
Oh,
So
you
obviously
know
they
what? I
would have
totally
to
remember
change.
that now. See, I'm old enough to remember these marketing campaigns that they're trying to compete with Pepsi, but it actually is better to compete against because there are people who like the Pepsi product, people who like the Coke product, and the
I
Coke
always
drinkers didn't like the Pepsi.
because I work at a fast food, so people are always like, "Oh, you get okay, I want a Coke. We only have Pepsi." Then they're upset about that.
Yeah,
So
when people like
people have a
exactly when
side.
my husband says we're do Pepsi, then he orders a Mountain Dew instead. Is Mountain Dew Pepsi?
What do you mean?
Is it a Pepsi product?
I wouldn't know.
Do you where
We
you're at? Do you have Mountain
yeah,
Dew?
we have Mountain Dew.
Then it's a Pepsi product.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So then he'll order something that he doesn't drink normally because he just doesn't like Pepsi for sure. So he'll get Sprite or whatever. Um, so yeah, that one was a flop. And then this is the biggest flop or one of the bigger ones. I've personally haven't heard the term Edsel, but I'm not in marketing, and my guess is that's a marketing one. So they had this vehicle out there that they were trying to do, and it just didn't work out. Do you guys know of any other vehicles that didn't work out? You may or may not.
I wouldn't say I know. I'd say I've seen pictures, but I don't know what it's called. So.
Okay, there's one that I know. It's a Pinto in my day and age. No, not Pinto. A Yugo. Pinto was before my day. A Yugo came out in a small economical car, and I don't know if it'd work now, but it didn't last very long. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about correlation. We have positive and negative correlation. And then we have a degree of correlation as well, but we're going to ignore the degree for the moment. I want you to look at all those graphs, and I think you can do it. So what I want you to do, I know you can't see me do it, but I want you to take, well, let me do it. Where's my shapes? I want you click on the rectangle on this PowerPoint. You click on the rectangle, and then I want you to put a line of best fit in these places. Okay, and change your color if you can. So I'm gonna let you do it, William. So go ahead, click on this line, click on the color, and I want you all to try to put a line of best fit in all 6 of the pictures.
In all of them.
Yeah. And so you'll have to keep clicking on the line. Like you'll just do it once and then keep clicking on the line. And that's okay, you could draw on it too. Good, and then just, you're gonna have to click on a line again. And I don't expect all of your lines to be in the same location, okay? Donovan, to erase, you're gonna click the little arrow button on the far left of the window. Oh, never mind. You can also do Control Z. And William's the one that's putting all these line of best fits in here. And what he's done is he selected the rectangle. You click on it for a long time, and then a line will come up. Oh, did they all disappear? Somebody did something. It's all right. Just do it again. Oh, but you're in the rectangles, which you can make skinny rectangles as well, but it's harder.
I'm gonna go to the back room. Hold on just a sec. Okay. So which students were you?
Good, and go ahead, use that. Whatever, whoever's drawing on the top left one, it's fine. We don't need perfection, okay? We just need effort. Good. We just need effort. And you can also, write and stuff like that. Good. We just need effort. Yeah, unfortunately they can't see like what we're doing to know how you were doing it. Good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to do it as well, just because I can. I'm going to pick green. Green's a bad color because there's green already there. Grr. Okay, guys, I totally made it all go away. Sorry about that. But did you notice that as you're doing stuff, um, there wasn't an exact science to it. There is mathematically, if we were to input all that data, but the biggest one I wanted you to notice is William had put in that. I put in that one on the bottom line. This one has no correlation.
It's very spread out.
Like it, I can see why you'd put positive, and I put negative just because I knew I could. And some of you might go, "Oh, well, I see that one," but actually, for me, on this bottom left, the yellow one, I don't see a correlation there at all. Okay, whereas these other ones I do. The ones on the left tend to be more positive, except for that bottom left one.
Well, let's see because there's two lines.
Yeah, and it
those
just, like, for
couple.
me, it wasn't 100% that it could be one way or the other, so I just chose to, it kind of looks like it could be a negative trend, but it's all over the place, so it's definitely, for me, there is no correlation.
Okay.
It'd be like I wouldn't be able to say, okay, if we went over to the right, I can predict what's going on. Now, the reason why we have correlation is correlation. If we see correlation, a connection between two sets of variables, so like um, longevity of smoking versus probability of getting lung cancer, then we can say, okay, well, if you've been smoking for 30 years, the probability of getting lung cancer is X. Like we can predict that. These other ones on the right side, those are negative correlations. There still is predictable pattern. And that predictable pattern would be if prices, say if prices of gas are lower, we drive more. And so there still is a predictable pattern, and that's what correlation is doing. I appreciate that you guys tried. I think it's fabulous you guys tried to play on this PowerPoint. So the big thing on the stuff on the left is positive correlation. Stuff on the left is negative, right, with negative correlation. Now, when we have a perfect correlation, we have what's called a correlation coefficient. I gotta get to the draw part. Here's my draw part. I want to change colors. Do I have to draw? Text. Change colors. Go for yellow. Okay, so when we have a correlation coefficient, which we represent by the letter R. Oh, totally didn't want to do that. Oh, it's because I want to do that. Okay. We represent it by the correlation coefficient R. When we have a strong positive, we have R equals 1. And that would be 100% correlation. And this would also be 100% connection. It's just as a negative one. If we have a weak one, so if we do weak, maybe we're talking about 0.3. And if we have a weak negative, would be negative 0.3. Well, that wasn't a very 3. And if we have no correlation, I'm going to change that to this. So no correlation, R would equal 0. Okay, so with that information, we're just going to look. Now we're talking about correlation coefficients, so they're numbers. Numbers between 0, not between 0, between -1 and 1. If we're 1, we're strong positive, -1, strong negative, but there are still correlations. So just looking at these pictures, I want you to just look at the pictures for a minute. And then on the next slide, we're going to assign correlation coefficients to it. Maybe I should put little numbers. I'm going to do that. So we're going to call this graph A, B, C, D, E. Oh, totally lost numbers. F, G. The number that I lost over here just was 0, but I still lost it. Okay, so in your pods, Adrian, you took over one. Donovan, you took over one. I'm going to let William take over one. What I want you to do, so if you look at my pod, I want you to put A equals, what correlation do you think A is? What do you think? What correlation? Oh no, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do A colon R equals. Yeah, because we want to know what's an R. A is a perfect correlation. What kind of perfect though? Perfect positive, perfect negative.
Perfect negative.
A. What kind of slope is it?
So positive.
Yeah, so it's also going to be good. And I don't know if I define that. If it's a positive slope, it's a positive correlation. I don't think I saved that. So I'm going to put equals 1. Okay? And so I'm going to let Adrian type on my computer. Not Adrian. Adrian's on his own computer. So then do B colon, and then what does R equal? Okay, I'm liking your answers, Adrian. Good job. And then Donovan, what I want you to do is I want you to identify what correlation coefficient, so those numbers that are there, what one would you associate with that graph? Because I agree with you. A is a perfect positive correlation. B is a high, is a strong. The other term that we use is strong correlation. But what would be the number we associate with it? Yeah, Adrian, yes, your answer for that first one is right. Good job. Good job. Good. So for me, when I look at correlation and trying to decide what correlation coefficient goes along with it, so if I'm looking at graph C and graph D, so if I'm looking at graph C and graph E, I can see in graph C it's going up, graph E it's going down, so that's how we know if it's positive or negative. But then the other one is like, well, if I was to put a line of best fit in C, I might put it there. I might put it there. It's not quite so obvious where that line goes. Mathematically, we stick it somewhere where there's a funky, fabulous formula we can do. Graphing calculators do it as well. But when it's a little less obvious where that line of best fit goes, then the correlation becomes smaller. Or not smaller, closer to zero. Because -1's smaller than all of them, but it's a strong correlation. Okay? Does that kind of make sense? I think you guys were getting there. Any questions on that? I think you guys got it. Okay. Oh, see? Now you know how smart you were. Okay. So if we were to just put in a trend line or a line of best fit or a regression line on these ones, we kind of did that already. Looking at F, can you put a trend line in F?
No correlation, I would say.
Yeah, I would say there's no correlation on that one. So there would also be no regression on that one. And what about C?
A low upward, low positive,
Yeah, we can maybe put a positive trend line,
or negative.
or I could see a negative trend line. So maybe no, or really weak.
Really weak.
One away or the other one. Yeah. Yeah. So I think you guys got it, and we tried to mess with this earlier, and it just didn't really work out well. Let's look at B. Is that going to be a positive correlation or a negative correlation?
Positive. Midway. An average positive.
So like a weak, like 0.5, is that what you
Uh-huh.
mean? Okay. So maybe R equals 0.5. Yeah. And then another thing we got to do is talk about causation. Just because stuff has a correlation doesn't mean there's causation. So in other words, trying to think. So like if there just sometimes there could happen just to be a connection with the numbers, but there's really no causation. So like if we were to say the people who get 8 hours of sleep is connected to, or the amount of hours of sleep that you get is connected with the amount of thes you use in a day. There would be no correlation, right?
Of what being used?
The word the.
Yeah.
Like if we found a correlation, like the numbers worked correlation, it doesn't mean it causes. So sometimes you can find weird correlations, and the media will do that for us. And so anytime people present data to us, still be skeptical, because it doesn't always mean that there's causation going on. And it means causation means, does that first variable mean the second one's going to happen, or does it force that one? Sometimes there is no connection. I have nothing else to say. Anybody have anything else to say? Share? Glad y'all came.